What's going on? It's your Council Poly Rob. Welcome to another episode of the Poly Rob podcast. I appreciate everybody showing love, and all the information on how to support my channel is right here at the bottom. Let's get right into it. Day 2 at Yankee Stadium, Jay-Z's anniversary concert for the Blueprint. This is day 2. You know what I mean? Day 1 was phenomenal. You can go check my blog out for day 1 with Reasonable Doubt. You know what I'm saying? That was the 30-year anniversary. I believe this Blueprint is the 25th anniversary of the Blueprint. You know what I mean? And Jay-Z's on a tear right now. He's going crazy. He is going crazy. Now, the Blueprint is arguably Jay-Z's best album. The Blueprint 1 is arguably Jay-Z's best album. I think across the board, from all types of Jay-Z fans, from, Reasonable Doubt fans to, Jigga Man fans, to Hove fans, to Billionaire Jay-Z fans, to Sean Carter fans, there's different levels of that. I think everyone can agree the Blueprint is probably his best album, or 1 or 2, but most people believe it's his best album. You know what I'm saying? So it's only right doing the anniversary concert for this particular album. I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's his shortest album in terms of songs and album runtime. It's his shortest album, but it's probably the most cohesive. It's the most cohesive. And there's a bunch of breakdowns on Jay-Z's The Blueprint album. So I encourage you to go follow those breakdown channels and go check that out. What I want to talk about is mainly the actual concert and how the energy, and keep in mind, I'm only watching from the videos that I've seen, but it looks like the energy was incredible. It was incredible. I think that's one of the rare albums where people know like the lyrics word for word, back to back, from song 1 all the way to song 10. You know what I mean? It's also, I believe, the turning point in what Jay-Z would deliver in terms of like being a part of Rockefeller and being someone who's on top of his game. You know what I mean? Hard Knock Life Volume 2 was a great album, and I believe that was his highest selling album to that point. But I think the Blueprint is what made the difference in Jay-Z being an elite artist. You know what I mean? I think at that point it was like, okay, it's no longer Jay-Z has arrived. It's like, no, Jay-Z is one of the top lyricists in the game. And I think he's maintained his mantle from then on. You know what I mean? For this concert, it starts once again with just a lot of great visuals on the big LED screen. Start off with a lot of great visuals. Then you see the Blueprint sign. It looks like an actual blueprint of like a building, but you see the words, the Blueprint, and you just knew that the energy was going to be phenomenal. And then he starts off, pretty much in sync with how the album starts. He comes out on the ruler's back, you know what I'm saying? Straight out the gate. And when I tell you the energy in that room, the people singing the words word for word, that record already was something that I felt like was a great way to start off an album. But we never got a chance to see him perform that song on stage, so to speak. So that's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? Right after that song, he brought out Slick Rick. If you don't know who Slick Rick is, please go do your homework. You know what I'm saying? Slick Rick is one of the legends, one of the smoothest, dopest artists, that we've ever come across. artists like Jay-Z, artists like Snoop Dogg, you know, have learned from Slick Rick and his great musical talent, his storytelling, so many elements. And if I'm not mistaken, Slick Rick actually was he was a part of the hook on Girls, Girls, Girls. I believe Biz Markie, Slick Rick, and Q-Tip. If you listen to Girls, Girls, Girls by Jay-Z, every time the hook is being sung, it's being sung by one is by Q-Tip. Well, one is by Biz Markie first, and then the second one is by Slick Rick, and then the third one is by Q-Tip. So that was fire that he brought Slick Rick on stage. You know what I'm saying? Because Slick Rick has something to do with being on the blueprint. Um, I'm not gonna go through all of the records that he performed. I just want to talk about the energy of that. Performing "Girls, Girls, Girls" was, of course, how that's finna go. That's how that's finna go. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one of my favorite records from Jay-Z, not because it's one of his popular records, but because his writing style, his writing approach to that song is very, very like intricate. And everybody was singing that word for word as well, which was great. You know what I mean? Just going through all of those songs on a blueprint was just ultimate nostalgia. I think there's more people who can identify with the energy of the blueprint than they can the reasonable doubt. You know what I mean? Which, that's okay. You know what I mean? H to the Izzo, you already know how that's finna go. You know what I'm saying? You already know the energy of, H to the Izzo. That was like his first single from the blueprint. You know what I'm saying? That was his first single from the blueprint, which I loved. You know what I'm saying? That energy of that whole thing was great. And he brought Pharrell out. And the Jay-Z and Pharrell dynamic is one of those, and I'm not saying it's that close to this, but I'll just give an example. The energy like with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, it's that same energy with Jay-Z and Pharrell. It's just like they have this chemistry to create styles of records and just different elements that people love. So it was only right that he bring out Pharrell and just run through all of the joints, man. Just run through all the joints. You know what I'm saying? Pharrell looking fly as ever. You know what I'm saying? They doing a two-step, you know what I mean, while they performing. I love that. Love that energy. That just lets you know how much fun they have in the studio when they're creating different things. You know what I'm saying? Then one thing that was very surprising was Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. Yo, the crowd was singing that word for word, which that's, in my opinion, that's one of the better songs on the album. But I didn't think that people resonated with that record as much as I did. They went crazy. There's clips online of them singing that word for word. And keep in mind, just sidebar, there's so many people with their phones capturing different angles of the concert. It was packed. It was sold out. It was on top of the world. It was fire. Like, stop with all the cap of like, oh, maybe he didn't sell out or still more tickets to be sold. Shut up. It was packed. It's Yankee Stadium. Relax. Heart of the City, one of my favorite records on the project, and of course Never Change. You know what I'm saying? Never Change is one of my favorites as well. I mean, we would have loved to see Kanye on stage with Jay-Z, but that's here nor there. You know what I mean? The Blueprint, in my opinion, is the album that made Jay-Z on top of everything, on top of the world. That it's definitely that. You know what I'm saying? It was also the album that made him almost like be a little bit more honest with his approach to how he made records. Because beforehand, before that record, before Blueprint, it was one of those things where he was really, you know, being a player, you know what I'm saying, in his element, in his bag, you know what I'm saying? And when you listen to Blueprint, when you listen to Song Cry, which I'll get to that song, when you listen to Song Cry, which is also another record that was going crazy in the stadium, I think that was the first time when he really got super, super honest with something very personal to him. Like, he really was being personal with his relationship with whomever he was dealing with, during those years. You know what I mean? Even Harder the City is him being honest about certain things that's happening, people getting at him, people, thinking about what he's doing as something wrong or cynical or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? Never Change was another personal record. We was like, I never changed. I'm still the same Hove. I'm still the same person. He got really personal on like the second half of this project. And I think that's why a lot of people connect with it, because this is one of the first times that you heard Jay-Z be a lot more vulnerable in his music than before. You know what I mean? When we get to Renegade, it's just something about Eminem, man. Eminem on Renegade. I remember when the Blueprint first dropped and we was having conversations about what's the best songs, what's the best verses. I remember this was the first time where somebody said, hey, Jay-Z got bodied on his own song, Renegade. That was the thing. That's what everybody was saying. I'm just telling you what they were saying. They were insinuating that Jay-Z got bodied on his own song on Renegade. Now, Jay-Z's verses was fire, but we got to give it up. Eminem did his thing. I kid you not. And when he came out on stage at this Blueprint concert and start rapping his verse, the crowd went absolutely nuts. They went crazy. They rapping his lyrics. When they get to the certain parts that they love, they saying it super loud. They loved it. That's when Eminem was at his height. That's when Jay-Z was at his height. And for us to see them perform that years later, 25 years later, is beautiful. Beautiful. And they gave each other ultimate kudos at the very end. That's what we wanted to see. That's what we wanted to see. Remember, this Blueprint album didn't have a lot of features. I think the only feature was Eminem. Yeah, the only feature was Eminem. Yeah. That was the only feature. I mean, aside from Girls, 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 like those three legends being on the hook, that was the only actual feature with verses, and Eminem did his thing. He did his thing. So to see that on stage was beautiful. Beautiful. That's what we need. We need more of that. This is the energy that we can enjoy. This day 2 was just as phenomenal as day 1. Just as phenomenal. They had to run back that New York State of Mind. Of course, they had to run that back fast. Ran back some other records, you know what I'm saying? It was a beautiful thing. This is what we needed. The wardrobe of Jay was the same type of wardrobe that he would wear when he was doing the Blueprint. That whole thing was set up. The band is in the background, giving it they all. That was set up. Young Guru was back there, controlling and conducting everything. Beautiful. Yankee Stadium was in full effect. This is what we need. This is hip hop at its finest. Twitter is going crazy right now. Some of the best performances that I've seen. Jay-Z is doing his thing right now. He's at an elite level. And he's a billionaire. So, I mean, what billionaire coming to do A 2-hour set full of fire, full of dope classic records. What billionaire you know doing that? You got to show love. No more hate, y'all. No more hate. Stop hating. Enjoy what's happening right now. Let me know in the comments what y'all feel about day 2 of the anniversary, you know what I'm saying, of the blueprint, you know what I mean? Let me know what y'all think about Jay-Z performing at Yankee Stadium. Let's talk about it in the comments. Y'all been going crazy on the comments on my YouTube, my TikTok, and my Instagram. And I love it. I try to respond to as much of it as possible, but let's keep these conversations going because we need more of this. Y'all already know what it is. Workload.